up for us. Warm up, answer. It's only Wednesday. So, how do you do this?
I have so much more to do this week.
You can't do that.
So, this goes away. Right, you have to square root it. So you get rid of
You know that thirst emoji where it's like a guy who's like red, but like.
Oh, yeah.
They're like an eggplant emoji.
When you write it, I say it's okay to go to
It's like the one that's like, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh no. So how much of it is
and then square.
I got contrast.
Yes, I did tell you about putting places around like you can get a good car. You can get you used to be able to get a great car for 15 and 2018 Kia Soul.
I was just confused. I thought this one
That was your name up there? Kia Soul. Something about driving a Kia Soul. God, what? Oh, on there?
No, it's
At least they're right here.
I don't know what's wrong with it.
Don't even try.
I'm gonna make it.
It's like
I'm gonna make it. No,
That
it's
was
paper.
smart.
No, I have my name.
It's like a convertible.
Sorry. Talking to myself. Samuel and Noah.
I know this guy. My name's not up there.
Yeah, it is.
No, it isn't. Mine's not.
Yours is up there. You moved it.
Mine, his is. Mine's.
I know. I was talking to Sam. I'm sure yours is up there unless you didn't
No,
turn
I
it
don't
to me.
think I came that day or something.
The first day of school?
Yeah. I was probably sick. He was gone for the whole week.
Probably sick.
Oh, I was. Remember? I was wasn't I?
Why would I remember if you were here or not?
Yeah, you came a little late.
You're in Disneyland.
Yeah. I got a lightsaber, like a real one. It's metal. Yeah.
Oh,
You put a kyber crystal.
Yeah, you
in
put a
it.
crystal in. What color did you get? Is it like the most rarest one, like a black one?
The dark saber? They don't even have that.
Oh.
Molly cracks me up.
Molly does me too.
She put herself at the back of that row and she can't see.
I thought she got
And now when
live.
she watches this video, she's going to hear me talking about her. She's going to crack up a huge amount. Did you know Molly's doing a project on Molly, the drug?
I did hear that, but she says,
She's tripping on E.
yeah, she said her teacher can't, she said her teacher told her she can't make jokes about Molly though when she's doing the presentation.
Why?
Because he said it's serious.
Oh.
Are you guys recording
Yes.
that conversation?
Yes.
Disclaimer.
All of it.
Oh, the person. Wait,
In type 2, it says, it's true, not a filter professional, and then it says the first blood pressure is above 130, but I think it
Not.
is. Not. Okay.
All right. Shh. Quiet down. So, null hypothesis, the mean systolic blood pressure is 130. The alternative is it's greater than 130. So a type 1 error, remember, is null is true, but we reject it. So that means the person's pressure is 130, but if we reject it, we're accepting the alternative, so we think the blood pressure is higher than 130. And then the machine tells them to go see the doctor. Type 2, the alternative is true, but we failed to reject the null. That means their blood pressure is above 130, but we think it's fine, so they don't get medical attention. Which one is more serious? Two. right. Yes.
So for the H, no, for the hypothesis,
Mhm.
is it supposed to be like the opposite of the alternative? So it wouldn't be like,
Your null hypothesis is always an equal. And then your alternative is either a less than, greater than, or not equal to statement. All right. Anybody need a calculator?
no.
We will be using them.
I finally get new batteries
Woohoo! Yeah, just drop things.
Drop the Trader Joe's bag.
Missy lunch.
That's what I said.
Another one. And I like the pink one.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Purple is, well, I don't know, purple is cool. Definitely
All right, everybody's got a calculator?
cooler in artistic sense.
All right, so first thing, we're gonna revisit power for a little bit. Power, the power of the test. So, it says you manufacture and sell a liquid product whose electrical conductivity is supposed to be 5. You plan to make 6 measurements of the conductivity of each lot of product. If the product meets specifications, the mean of many measurements will be 5. So you test, null hypothesis, mean is 5. Alternative, the mean is not 5. If the true conductivity is 5.1, the liquid is not suitable for its intended use. You learn that the power... I really feel like this week should be over already and it's Wednesday. You learn that the power of your test at the 5% significance level against the alternative, mu equals 5.1, is 0.23. Explain in your own words what power equals 0.23 means in this setting. You may want to refer to your notes from the other day about power. That's why you might want to refer to your notes. If I just tell you, then it's just me telling you again. Well, I can tell you right now what it means. Go ahead. No, you guys gotta learn what power means.
Alpha?
Yeah, what
Just started up.
What if I call you bluff?
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
Just
come on.
Isn't it just that,
The Z-score?
Dude, I'm reading.
Is it the Z-score?
yeah, oh, I know what it is.
Does it make a curve?
I think I might have not.
Kinda, I mean, it does show up in our chart, but I asked for words.
Oh,
Not a
words.
picture. I know, compare I. It is math class.
It's the...
Yeah.
What is it?
I'm not really sure what it means.
Anything above 0.23.
Have the definition.
So in this setting,
Anything below it
I was explaining
is...
Alpha. It's alpha. Alpha. It's alpha. When did the next order?
weeks after spring break.
Oh, okay. I have all the right to study.
So I don't know.
Hammer.
No, I think the latest.
Hammer.
Do we...
Next week.
23%.
So, do we say like, anything less than 0.23 is we accept H null, anything after 0.23 we now. What?
Wait, is this confidence?
It's feedback. What is feedback?
I forgot what I just said.
It is feedback.
Oh, you're right. About math. But yeah, that now there's.
What did you say?
When you're
What were you saying? You were saying something.
How long have you
Clear mouth.
Oh well, that's not good.
I said how long?
Was what?
What's my hat?
What was it?
Oh.
Was what about?
Like you take.
I was talking to you about like 2 different things.
Actually really
I didn't hear what you were saying.
That's a big trophy, and then I was trying to. But like you take children as like.
Yes, I think you're right.
You want grade
Yesterday,
Why?
It's like someone doesn't.
I just took my bed. I watched it. I'm sick. Eating ice cream today. I knocked out. I was like, oh, shoot, I got school.
Yeah.
really weird in my.
I'm gonna start singing.
So I tried out all these ways. So
What's
that
not great?
you're taking it. You're used to that way.
I saw one thing.
Oh my, what's the average?
They don't achieve the community property.
So you're above average. I would have, if I did this.
Alright, so
Oh, yeah.
Amelia.
That's why I'm
Amelia just put up our definition for us. So power is when the alternative is true and we correctly reject the null. We want to explain what it means in this setting. So I saw a lot of you that said 23% of the time we correctly identify the alternative, which is kind of true, but you didn't put a whole lot of context into your statement. So I was going to say a better statement, but then again, we know I suck at words. So a possible statement with a little more context would be something like 23% of the time, which most of you had, and then I'm going to add context. Mu equals 5.1 because that was the specific alternative that we were looking at. And we correctly identify that alternative. And my big handwriting got off the board.
Is there a frat that has the letter B?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Is there like a frat that has the letter B?
Probably.
Soon.
Yeah, frats use frequent.
Alpha, Sigma, Mu. There you go. I made one up.
I would join.
Isn't that what Monsters University was? MU?
Who's my kappa?
Mu?
No.
Alright. If you haven't tried B, C, and D, try those. We did talk about them in our notes last time. So you should be able to answer those. You may need to refer to that packet as well. But we did talk about B, C, and D last time. I do want you
Is this just saying increase the sample size?
Increasing the sample size.
Yeah, should you make more measurements?
You
Yes.
can't put processes. So as long as the population is for the day, increasing their sample size. Oh, for that.
That's ears I don't have a cat, but I know it's a It's ears.
It's weird. Yeah.
It's only cool.
But they're different colors too.
Well, now it makes a little more sense, but
What happens if we change the
We
alpha?
would take the electrical
It increases, right?
are they all the Catania here?
If you
Or the color.
Sort of. No.
Well, I don't think you answered the question.
I know.
Agree with you that you didn't answer the question.
Further up arrow.
Well, I was going further. What value with the further?
She did just right.
I don't know.
This one's like justified. They all say justified.
B doesn't say justify, C and D do, but it's okay. Look, just ignore math.
Tolerable
Getting
further.
to the last time.
Anna, I cannot have this pen.
Why?
I just keep playing with it,
Just use it. It's fun.
and I'm gonna break it.
Okay.
I don't
One
wanna
more
break
pen
your
for
pen.
myself. You can only use one.
Should let her keep it.
You can have the pen.
Yo, me too, man.
Where's the justification?
Oh my gosh. We'll get there. All right,
This is justified.
B. You could get higher power against the same alternative with the same alpha by changing the number of measurements you make. Should you make more or fewer? More. Always increase sample size. Just that one doesn't say justify, by the way. C, if you decide to use alpha equals 0.1 in place of alpha equals 0.05 with no other changes in the test, will the power increase or decrease? It will increase. Remember, we looked at how the alpha determines where our p hat or x bar is so that we reject the null or fail to reject. And if we make the area under the curve bigger, instead of being at 0.05, putting it at 0.1, it's going to change the corresponding power of our test. So instead of, I should use different colors. This is 0.05, and this is 0.1. Then when we say the alternative is true, 0.05, the p hat or x bar would be about there. When we make it 0.1, it's going to be further. And this side, the left side, was the power of our test. So by making your alpha bigger, you're making that p hat or x bar closer to the mean of the null, which then puts it further away from the alternative. If you shift your interest to the alternative mu equals 5.2 with no other changes, does the power increase or decrease? It's going to increase. You guys ready to do your first significance test?
Yeah.
You guys were kind of split on that.
Should I be excited?
It's significant.
You should be excited for everything except for the conclude. The conclude. We've done the conclusions. It's a paragraph.
Write a short novel.
This is pretty much what it is.
Oh. Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. I like that.
It is. All right. We're gonna do the 4-step process: state, plan, do, conclude. When we are doing a significance test, for state, you state your hypotheses. So you're going to give your H null and your HA. you're going to define the parameter in words. So you're going to tell me whatever P is that you're trying to estimate or whatever mu is. Today we're going to focus on P, and we'll look at P tomorrow. Also next week we'll look at mu. And then make sure you identify your significance level, which is alpha.
I think she's just running up the steps.
Yeah, I'm just telling you the steps. Then we'll flip and we'll actually do one. Plan. We have 3 conditions we check. What are they? Same as last chapter. Random, normal, independent. Do. You're going to draw a picture. That means you're going to draw the normal curve. You're going to, you're going to like it because the calculator draws it for you, and then pretty much you just have to put it on your paper. So picture general formula and the specific formula. I know I've said this before. For those of you taking the AP exam, I just make my problems look like what they expect. So those of you not, sorry, you just have to learn it that way. That way my kids taking the AP exam don't get surprises right before the test. So the general formula is mainly because the AP exam, to get full credit, you have to have it. So I'm going to teach you to do both in the do. Then you plug your numbers in. You're going to find your test statistic, so your z-score, and then your p-value. The p-value the calculator gives to you, the test statistic, the z-score, well, it's really not that part of a formula, so you guys will get to see it again. No. Just wait till the end of notes. Whatever she needs is not as important as my class.
It's Squid Game.
So I can wait till I'm done. Conclusion, write a short novel. We looked at that on the very first day of this unit, but I'll remind you guys today. Questions before we flip over and look at our first one? By the way, I have to give Maddie a shout out because yesterday she was in here working on her Unit 8 test, and she goes, "Who are you going to pick on in class tomorrow in your notes?" Because I had picked on her the other day. And I said, "It's either my mom or my dad," and I looked through my notes and they were missing a page. So I found out yesterday because Maddie, so I was able to make better copies, because otherwise you wouldn't have had this paragraph and I would have made you write it by hand. So you all owe Maddie a thank you.
Yes.
I don't know how I did that the first time around. Yeah, we already have to write enough. All right, so it says my dad goes golfing almost on a daily basis, which he does. My dad is ridiculous about golf. He claims to be an 80% putter on putts that are within 5 feet of the hole. My mom and I believe that he is not really that good at putting. So to prove his merit, did you say wow? Just like I pick on you guys, I pick on my dad. It's probably where I learned to do it. That's how my dad and I's relationship is. So he went to the golf course, took 50 putts within 5 feet of the hole. He made 32 of them. We can think of those 50 putts as being an SRS of the thousands of putts that my dad has taken over the years. Does the data provide good evidence against my dad's claim? Perform the appropriate significance level. Use alpha equals 0.01. So state Tell me, Eric. How many of you have seen The Sandlot? I said Killing Me Smalls to one of my students last period, and he was like, Smalls? What's that? And I was like, how have you not seen The Sandlot?
It's not even an old movie.
Whoa. You just called her old. It hurt, Nate.
Damn. I just
Not
I
that.
thought it was an old movie.
When was it made?
Yeah, that's the late 90s.
That is old to you guys.
If I were you, this is what I'd cry when I get home.
Sandlot, good movie.
Well, Sandlot's a good movie. But
Well,
another good movie is called Midnight.
oh. Never heard of that one or seen that one. All right. Null hypothesis. My dad claims to be an 80% putter. So we're working with proportions. So we're going to use P. And the null is always an equal to statement. My mom and I believe he is not really that good. So the alternative is less than. Thank you, Zach. So I gave my hypotheses. Next thing is to define my parameter. So P is the true proportion of all the putts my dad has ever made within 5 feet. Try to paraphrase that. True proportion of dad's putts within 5 feet. Oh, I should say made. I almost forgot made. Made within 5 feet. Alpha tells us to use 0.01. And then I'm thinking about it, and I forgot to tell you one thing on that previous page. You should also give your statistic. So we should give our p-hat. So he went and took 50 putts and made 32 of them. And that would be what, 0.64? Thank you. Gave the hypotheses, defined the parameter, stated our alpha and our p-hat, our estimate. Any questions on state? Then we go to plan. And we're going to check our conditions as well as state the calculator function. So the calculator function, one prop, because we're looking at proportions, and we're only looking at one of them. And when we work with proportions, is it Z or T? Z. And it's not an interval, now it's a test, because we're working with a significance test. And then random, remember a lot of times that shows up in the problem, SRS. So I'm just going to quote SRS. Normal, how do we check normal for proportions? But what do they have to be? Greater than 10. Thank you, Hannah. N times P greater than or equal to 10. And N times 1 minus P greater than or equal to 10. N times P technically is the number of putts my dad made. So it would be 0.64 times 50, because n is 50, and that's my p, my estimate. So it'd be 32. And that's greater than 10. And if he took 50 putts, he made 32 of them. How many did he miss? 18. So this one is 18. And that is also greater than 10. Independent, what's the condition there? Little n is less than or equal to 1/10 big N. Big N, that sounds weird, capital N. So our sample size is less than 1/10 of the population. So sample size was 50. And if I multiply both sides by 10 to get rid of the 1/10, 500 has to be less than or equal to our population, which I can totally verify. My dad has taken more than 500 putts in his life. He literally sometimes just goes to the golf course and practices putting. Anybody a golfer?
I like to
Man,
Really
no,
good at it.
Really? Why would you like to golf? It's so boring.
It's much really good to golf.
It also says thousands of putts.
It does say thousands of putts.
You know what?
He literally sometimes just goes to the golf course. You know how you go and you do the driving range? Well, they have practice putting greens as well. And he'll literally just roll a bucket of balls out. What?
I don't think you ever learned to talk. Your mouth keeps
Yo, what?
I'll beat his ass.
Bro, Nate just once. He's just out.
All right, moving on. This twice he's made me want to cry. Called me old.
You could change it, right? You can change it. Yeah, you have that.
No, that's not how grades work.
Yes, it is.
No, you guys earn them. I don't give them.
Earned a lower grade.
Jillian does have a point there. All right, so draw a picture, general formula, specific formula, z-score, and p-value. Write smaller. I'm going to make my normal curve kind of go up into the orange. Just because I can. I don't know if you guys made yours that way. It kind of goes down to the right. When we draw our picture, our normal curve, we're always assuming the null is true. So at the center of my normal curve is my dad's claim that he's an 80% free throw shooter. Anybody remember how to find standard deviation for proportions? I'm going to pick on Nate. He's sitting there going, what was it? Thanks, Cheyenne. P times 1 minus P divided by N, all under the square root. So 0.8 is my P, which means 1 minus P is 0.2. The sample size was 50, and then I'm going to square root the whole thing. So I get 0.057. Now, the calculator will, Sorry, those two dotted lines are too close together, but too bad. I'm working in pen. The calculator will, I'll show you, it will draw it for you. It won't give you all the little standard deviations above and below, but it will draw the curve and show you the shaded area. But for those of you taking the AP exam, you should draw it with all the little standard deviations. That'd be what, 0.914 or 0.904? Thank you. 0.914, and then that'd be 0.971. I can't do subtraction that well in my head. 0.743. 0.686. 0.629. The p hat that we're looking at is the 0.64. Sorry, I'm looking for a different color to use. So our p hat is 0.64, which is going to be between those two, closer to the 0.62. So let's go with like there-ish. So I'm going to say p hat equals 0.64. Our alternative was less than, so we're shading to the left. So we're going to find that little area under the curve. Now the whole general formula, specific formula. The general formula actually really isn't that hard. You're going to say test statistic, and you can abbreviate. And your test statistic really is your z-score. And anybody remember how to find z-score? Oh, not with the calculator, by hand.
Observation minus mean over standard deviation?
Observation minus mean divided by standard deviation. So our observation is our statistic. At the center of our curve is the null hypothesis, the claim, the parameter we're estimating. And then we would divide by standard deviation. So that whole general formula thing really isn't that hard. That's why I don't make a fuss about making non-AP takers write it down. Then the specific one, so the test statistic is our z-score. Our statistic, we're working with a proportion, so it's p hat. Our parameter is just p. And then Cheyenne reminded us how to find standard deviation. It's that one over there. So on the bottom, I have the square root of p times 1 minus p all over n.
Oh, that's just anything.
So our statistic is 0.64, the parameter is 0.8, and our standard deviation is 0.057. The calculator will tell you the z-score, it will tell you the p-value. It pretty much tells you everything you need to know, but you should be able to find your z-score by hand also. All right, you ready to see the calculator function?
Oh my god, I haven't even read the short novel yet. I'm running out of space.
We've got quite a bit of space left.
For me, I know.
Not for me. Absolutely not.
We got got some space back there.
Yeah.
All right. So, how did we get to our confidence intervals? Do you guys remember? Oh, that hurts. What did we press? Stat. Go to test.
Yes. And then go to.
Then you would go to A, but we're not doing an interval. So we're looking for one prop Z test. No. 6 is 2 prop. That's next chapter. 5.
One prop Z.
1 prop Z test. Hit enter.
One prop.
Stat. Tests. Number 5. 1 prop Z test. P null. That's your null hypothesis. So we're going to put 0.8. X and N are what you get P hat from. So X is the 32, N is my 50. And then the next one is whether you're not equal to the null hypothesis, you're less than the null hypothesis, or you're greater than the null hypothesis. Our alternative is less than, so we're going to pick the middle one. And color is just because I have a color edition. If you have an older one, it won't ask you that. And then down below that is calculate and draw. Yes?
Wait, prop is like the H alternative, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is the proportion not equal to the null, less than the null, or greater than the null? I'm going to show you what both of them do. They both give you all the information you need. You're probably going to have one you prefer. So if you just hit calculate, it gives me my z-score, then it gives me my p-value, and it gives me my p-hat, which we already have. So z-score, negative 2.83 if I round, and my p-value 0.0023. That's what you get when you hit calculate. If you go back in, stat, go over to test number 5, it should have all the same information. If I go down and hit draw, it draws the normal curve for me, shows me the shaded area, but technically on this one, the shaded area is so small that it doesn't show up.
Wait, how'd you do
I just chose draw instead of calculate.
that? Oh, I see.
Then you probably go into your white equals.
And it says invalid dimension.
If it says invalid dimension, go into y equals. If you have anything in your y equals, clear them out. And then up at the top, the plot 1, plot 2, plot 3, if any of them are like highlighted, you have a plot turned on, and then it won't graph the normal distribution for you. So if it's like, see now how my plot 1's highlighted, it wouldn't do it for me if I click draw. So I go up, I highlight it, hit enter, and now that plot is turned off.
Oh.
Then you should be able to draw.
Oh, and then it says.
And when you do the draw, down at the bottom, it'll tell you your z-score and your p-value, which I pretty much had everything else that it gave me when I did calculate.
Minute choreography. I don't know. I just turned off the clock. Which means an area outside the curve is like shaded.
Yeah, what time do we get out?
11:40.
Really?
Yo.
I hate Wednesdays.
Same. Wait, when do we go?
In 5 minutes, I hate Wednesdays.
I get to sleep in. Actually,
All right, conclude.
oh, short novel.
Short novel. Assuming H null is true.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
There is a, and then you give your p-value, 0.0023 probability of getting a p-hat less than or equal to 0.64 purely by chance.
So are you saying he's not good at golfing?
No, that's not it.
Oh.
Is this strong or weak evidence against H null?
Strong.
Strong,
Oh.
because my p-value is less than my alpha. Less than. This has 2 zeros.
Oh,
That
yeah.
only has 1 zero. So this is less than. So this provides strong evidence.
No, I don't know. I'm just gonna go with the flow.
Against H null. And is statistically significant, which I'm going to abbreviate those words, at alpha equals 0.01. And then I'm going to put in parentheses my p-value is less than 0.01. That's why it's statistically significant at that level, because my p-value, the probability, is less than 1%. Therefore, we reject the null. And conclude the true proportion of putts made within 5p. I misspelled proportion. Portion.
Less than 0.8.
You can still do the homework. This one was just going to be the area under the curve was over here, so the alternative was greater than.
Sorry. It still works, I promise.
Because why not, Tyler?